Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to figure out what A times C is. So let's identify what A is, what B is, and what C is. So A is 1, B is -9, C is 20. I want to find two numbers that multiply to A times C. So A times C is 20, and B is -9. So I need two numbers that multiply to AC and add to 9. So I'm thinking like, okay, what are the factors of 20? I could do 1 and 20. I could do 2 and 10. I could do 4 and 5. I could do 5 and 4. I could do 10 and 20. Sorry, 10 and 2. And then I could do 20 and 10. 20 and 1. So I'm like, okay, what is the pair that's going to add to -9? And I noticed that all of these are positive, but if I made 4 negative and 5 negative, I would add to -9. And so what I need to use is I need to use this pair where it's all negative. So this is going to be a little bit tricky, but you just have to choose one that works. And sometimes you have to make one negative or both of them negative. So I'm going to use 4 and -5, -4 and -5. I'm going to put in the box. I'm going to put my x squared here to match this. I'm going to put my 20 here to match this. Remember that everything inside the box has to match the original equation. I have a -4x and a -5x, and I chose those because of what I have here and here. Make sure you have the x here and the x here, otherwise you're going to make some mistakes about interpreting your answers. Okay, so then I'm going to choose my -4 and my -5 here, because those two are common and they multiply to 20. 5 goes into 5 and 20. 4 goes into 4 and 20. So these both make sense. If I have a -4 here, then -4 times the stuff that I put right here has to give me -4x inside the box. And so I have to have an x right there. Because I have an x here, I want x squared here. So I have to put an x up there. Okay. So now what do I have? Well, let's just make sure that this worked, by the way. X times -5 is -5x, so that's perfect. Okay, so now what do I have? I have my factoring. I have x minus 4 and x minus 5. So my two factors are x minus 4 and x minus 5. This is equal to 0 because we showed using the box method that this stuff, everything on this side, is the same as this. So I didn't do anything, I didn't change the value, but I just rewrote it. Okay, so now we can do the zero product property. And we can say, okay, well, we can split this up and say x minus 4 equals 0, and we can say x minus 5 equals 0, because these two things are multiplied together and they're equal to 0. And so that means that either one of them has to be 0. This one, if I add 4 to both sides, I get x equals 4. This one, if I add both sides, 5 to both sides, I get x equals 5. So my two solutions are x equals 4 and x equals 5. Okay, on number 2, we're going to do the same thing. So let's identify what A is, what B is, and what C is. A is 1, B is 14, C is 49. So I need to find two numbers that multiply to A times C and add to B. So A times C is 1 times 49, which is just 49. B is 14. So what are some factors of 49? So 49 is, well, 1 times 49. Some other factors of 49 are 7 and 7. And I kind of jumped to this, but this is the pair that I need because I can see that 7 times 7 gives me 49, but I also know that 7 plus 7 gives you 14. So that's how I know that's what I'm going to use. In the box method then, we're going to put our m squared here, and we're going to put our 49 here. Remember that everything inside the box has to be the same as what's here, okay? So I know that I'm going to use 7 and 7, so I'm going to put 7m and 7m. Again, it's important that we have the m's there because otherwise they won't match this 14. So that's a really important part. Okay, what's common between the 7 and the 49? Well, let's go with 7. If I put 7 here, 7 times this gives me 49, and we know that that has to be 7. 7 times this has to give me 7m, and so this must be m, because m times 7 is the same as 7m. If I have an m up here, and I want an m squared here, then I have to put something here so that this times this gives me m squared. So this better be m also. Now what I have is my factoring. Because both of these numbers are positive, I can use pluses. So my factoring is m plus 7 times m plus 7 equals 0. Remember that this is the same as all of this stuff because we rewrote it a different way. Okay, now let's use the zero product property. This one is actually pretty fast because it says m plus 7 twice. So we can say, well, if we subtract 7 from both sides, and we just have to do it once because it's the same on both, we get m equals -7. So m equals -7 is a root that happens, a solution that happens 2 times. So that's a little bit weird, but it happens 2 times. So that's that. All right, let's do the next one. This one, same process. We'll identify what A is, what B is, and what C is. A is 1, B is 7, C is 12. I am a little bit more comfortable with my factors of 12, and so I'm just going to move on and say, you know what I need to use is 3 and 4, because 3 times 4 is 12, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So AC is 12, B is 7, so 3 and 4 multiply to 12 and add to 7. Okay, so box method is going to give me, I'm going to use my n squared here. I'm going to put my 12 here. I'm going to put my 3n here and my 4n here. Remember that everything inside the box has to add up to everything that's written right there. Okay. So what's common between the 3n and the 12? Well, I just have a 3 that's common. That means that 4 has to go here, because if I multiply 3 times 4, I get 12. So that makes sure that that box is correct. Then I need to do 12, then I need to figure out what goes up here. So this thing times 4 will give me 4n. So that means that this has to be n. And if this is n, then this has to be n also. So my factoring is n plus 4 times n plus 3 equals 0. Remember that this whole thing is the same as this is. Okay, so now let's apply the zero product property. The zero product property says, well, n plus 4 equals 0 or n plus 3 equals 0. So we have to solve both of these equations. We're going to subtract 4 from both sides on this one. N equals -4 is one solution, -3, and we get n equals -3 on this one. So there are our 2 solutions. On this one is a little bit more complicated, and I will say, okay, look at this. The numbers are just really big here, and so we're just going to have to deal with that. It'll be all right, though. So what is A times C? Well, 7 times 40 is 280. B is 51. So I need to find 2 factors of 280 that add to 51. And so I am just going to go ahead and Google this because I think that this is going to be faster if I just find my factor pairs online. So I'm going to type in Google factors of 280 in pairs. And this is going to give me my factor pairs of 280. And look at this. Which one adds to 51? So let's go here in pairs. And what I realize here is, hey, look at this. I missed something. C should be a negative number, and so A times C is actually negative 280. And so I need to find two numbers that add to 51 that multiply to negative 280. And so right here where I see 56 times 5, this one seems like this is going to work because I can use 56 and negative 5. Okay, so now I have that information. I'm going to use my box method. And this one is probably going to be a little tricky just because the numbers are so big, but I'm going to put 7n squared there. I'm going to put my negative 40 here, and then I'm going to put 56n, 56n, and negative 5n. What's common between these two? Well, it's negative 40. Just kidding, it's negative 5, sorry. That means that I have to put an 8 there because 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. If I have an 8 here, then this must be 7n. If this is 7n, then this must be n. So now here's my factoring. N plus 8 times 7n minus 5 equals 0. Now we can do the zero product property, and this one is just going to be a little bit more complicated, but that's okay. Okay, subtract 8, we get n equals negative 8. Add 5, we get 7n equals 5. Divide both sides by 7, and we get n equals 5/7. And I'm just going to keep it as a fraction. I like the fraction. Okay, on the next one, this one's a little bit, the numbers are a little bit more comfortable for me here. So a times c is negative 20 because I have 4 times negative 5. B is negative 19. So what are two factors of negative 20 that add to negative 19? Well, in my head, I'm like, you know what? It's probably negative 20 and 1 because negative 20 and 1, they multiply to negative 20 and they add to 19, negative 19. So box method. I got my 4x squared. I got my negative 5. I have negative 20x, and I have x, 1x. What's common between these two? Well, it's the negative 5. Because negative 5 goes into negative 20, and it goes into negative 5. What goes here then? It must be a 4x, because 4x times negative 5 gives me negative 20. 4x times x gives me 4x squared. And then this must be a 1. Okay, so, and this just to make sure this works, 5 times 1 is negative 5. So that's great. Here's our factoring. X minus 5, 4x plus 1 equals 0. Okay, zero product property. We get x minus 5 equals 0 and 4x plus 1 equals 0. So plus 1 or plus 5 plus 5, we get x equals 5. Minus 1, we get 4x equals negative 1. Divide both sides by 4, and I get x equals negative 1/4. Again, I'm totally okay with the fraction. Okay, last one. I'm getting tired. AC is 210. B is negative 29. Okay, this is giving me a hint that probably both of them have to be negative. Because if both of them are negative, then I can multiply to give me a positive number. And they will add to be negative. So let's find our factors of 210. And, okay, so here they are. Which one adds to 29. I think it's this one, 15 and 14. 15 and 14 add to 29, and they multiply to 210. So let's make them both negative. And then we're good to go. So here was what we get. We put our 21n squared there. We put our 10 here. We've got to use negative 15n and negative 14n. What's common between these two? Well, it's probably, this is a little weird. Let's try negative 5. I'm choosing a negative number because one of them is negative, and so it's likely that I can choose a negative number here too to make this work, but also to make the corners work. So this means that this is going to have to be negative 2 because negative 2 times negative 5 is 10. That makes this 7n, which makes this 3n. Okay, so here's my factoring. 7n minus 5 times 3n minus 2 equals 0. We're going to use the zero product property, so we say 7n minus 5 equals 0. Check this out. We already have our solution because we've already done this problem one time today. And we have 3n minus 2 equals 0. So we got n equals 5/7 from the previous problem, so that's done already. We already had that work. And then this one, let's add 2. Add 2, we get 3n equals 2. Divide both sides by 3, and we get n equals 2/3. There's our last answer. All done.